Other times.
We are shown a man named Nick, a former American soldier who was serving a 10-year sentence in a prison in Japan. Watching his life waste away like this, Nick often stayed quiet and gloomy. One day, while he was assigned a bathroom cleaning duty, his eyes fell on 5 brutal-looking men walking out of a room. They looked dangerous and terrifying. After they left, Nick went into the room out of curiosity and was horrified to see a man hanging from the ceiling. Panic took over him, and he immediately shouted for the prison guards to come and help. But instead of praising Nick for reporting it, the guards started beating him up. After the beating, he was thrown into a prison cell. The cell was small, suffocating, and dark. And soon, Nick realized something chilling. He was now sharing the cell with the very same man he had seen hanging from the ceiling. He had actually saved that man. His name was Kiyoshi, a member of the feared Shiromatsu gang. Kiyoshi revealed that he had a plan to escape from the prison, but he needed Nick's help. In return, if Nick helped him, he would earn the full support of the Shiromatsu gang. According to Kiyoshi, the first thing they needed was a sharp weapon, and it was Nick's job to find it. Once he had it, Nick would have to attack Kiyoshi with it. That way, the prison guards would rush Kiyoshi to the hospital, where his gang members would already be waiting to help him escape. After thinking it over for a while, Nick finally agreed.
Okay.
His chance came when all the prisoners were taken outside for labor work. Seizing the opportunity, Nick quietly slipped a sharp-edged rock into his pocket. Back in his cell, he began sharpening it even further, getting it ready for the plan. Kiyoshi was now fully prepared for the next step. But just before the injury, he reminded Nick that he had to alert the guards in time. Otherwise, if too much blood was lost, Kiyoshi could die right there.
I need you to keep me from dying.
Nick did exactly what he was told. The moment Kiyoshi started bleeding, Nick called for help and the guards rushed in. Just like that, Kiyoshi's plan worked perfectly. The very next day, Nick's status in the prison changed drastically. With the support of the Shiromatsu gang, he no longer had to live by the regular prison rules. Slowly, even his sentence was reduced significantly. Not long after, Nick was finally released from prison, but he wasn't the same man anymore. He had changed completely. As soon as he stepped out of the prison, he saw a car already waiting for him. The moment he got in, the men inside drove him straight to the Shiromatsu gang headquarters, where several gang leaders were waiting to meet him. As soon as they saw him, the first thing they did was thank him for helping Kiyoshi.
Good.
Then, without wasting time, they gave him his first assignment. Nick was to make a deal with an American businessman. Without giving it much thought, Nick agreed. That same evening, the gang members handed him some money for his expenses. But instead of resting, Nick wandered around the city. After some time, he ended up at a bar where his eyes landed on a Japanese woman. Something about her personality struck Nick, and after giving her a generous tip, he left and went back to sleep.
It'll be 100.
Next morning, Kiyoshi took Nick to a metal factory for the deal. That's where he was introduced to the American businessman, Anthony. But the moment Anthony laid eyes on Nick, his expression changed. He didn't look pleased at all. In fact, Anthony immediately started cursing and insulting Nick. He made it clear that he wouldn't accept any terms from the Shiromatsu gang because he was already in talks with their rivals, the Seizu gang. "If you don't give me a better deal," Anthony sneered, "they sure as hell will." His tone was rude, arrogant, and completely disrespectful.
Get the fuck out of my office.
Nick quickly realized that talking wasn't going to get him anywhere. Without hesitation, he grabbed a typewriter from the table and started beating Anthony with it. That single action made Nick's intentions crystal clear. With the job done, Kiyoshi and a few others took Nick to a bar to celebrate his first win. The atmosphere was lively and full of energy until it suddenly turned cold. Members of the rival Seizu gang had entered the bar. The room grew tense. Then, the leader of the Seizu gang began mocking Nick, throwing sharp taunts his way. But Nick wasn't the type to take insults quietly. Without a second thought, he grabbed a bottle and smashed it over the Seizu leader's head. In an instant, guns were drawn on both sides. But that night, the Seizu gang had fewer men, so they resorted to spitting threats and walking out. Nick's explosive rage didn't just silence the room, it won over the hearts of his Shiromatsu brothers and, more importantly, earned Kiyoshi's full trust. That same night, Kiyoshi offered Nick a fully furnished apartment and an invitation to officially join the Yaju clan, the inner circle of the gang. Nick accepted without hesitation. A few days later, Kiyoshi gave Nick his second assignment to meet a bar owner who was refusing to cooperate with the Shiromatsu gang. And once again, Nick handled it the only way he knew how, forcefully, without backing down. This time, Kiyoshi joined him, and together they continued to build the gang's reputation through fear and dominance. After the job, Kiyoshi took Nick to one of the Shiromatsu nightclubs. There, Nick spotted the same Japanese woman from before. She was dancing under the flashing lights. But suddenly, Kiyoshi stormed in and yanked her off the dance floor. His voice wasn't angry, it was filled with worry. Nick followed quickly, only to discover something unexpected. The woman was Kiyoshi's sister, Miyu. Kiyoshi asked Nick to make sure she got home safe. Nick agreed without hesitation. But as soon as they reached her door, Miyu's attitude changed. She playfully teased Nick and invited him inside. At first, Nick hesitated, but after a bit of blushing and flirting, he gave in.
Thank you for taking me home. You want to come inside?
Yes.
While they talked, Nick noticed a tattoo on Miyu's back. It was the mark of the Yaju clan, a clear sign of her connection to the underworld. The next day, Kiyoshi gave Nick another mission, this time to negotiate an arms deal with an American soldier. But there was one major catch. No other member of Shiromatsu could know about it. This had to be done in complete secrecy.
You'll have to do this on your own. Sounds like fun.
The following day, Nick arrived at the docks for the deal, but instead of his contact, he found an unfamiliar corpse. And before he could make sense of the situation, members of the Seizu gang showed up.
In reality, they had come to sabotage the deal. They had come to steal all the money, but Nick, sensing the danger early, had already hidden the $2 million inside the car seat. As a result, the Chu gang members were forced to leave empty-handed. But just before leaving, two of them pointed guns at Nick. At first, Nick pretended to go along with them, but the moment he sensed a real threat to his life, he suddenly grabbed one of their guns and shot both Chu gang members. Seeing this, the rest of the men backed off. But all of them knew one thing very clearly. This act of Nick's would have serious consequences. And that's exactly what happened. News of the incident quickly reached the leaders of the Shiromatsu gang, who immediately called a meeting. Both Nick and Kiyoshi were present. The leader suspected that someone from their own gang might have leaked information about the deal. To this, Kiyoshi assured him, "Don't worry, the money is perfectly safe." But even so, the leader wasn't particularly happy with Nick, because in his eyes, Nick's actions could ignite a massive gang war. To prevent that war, the leader decided to use a traditional method of apology. 2 severed fingers from the Shiromatsu gang would be sent to the Chu gang as a peace offering. Hearing this, Kiyoshi felt terrible. After all, he was the one who had brought Nick into this mess, so he chose to share the punishment with him. And then, both Nick and Kiyoshi cut off one of their own fingers and placed them in front of the leader. A while later, in the car, Nick and the Shiromatsu gang leader had a private conversation. The leader spoke about the future of the gang and told Nick, "You've got courage, but if you don't learn to control your temper, it'll destroy you. In this world, strength alone won't keep you alive." There was a suspicion that a traitor was hiding within, someone who was leaking their information. A little while later, their car stopped in the middle of the forest, where Nick's inclusion ceremony was to be held. He was to be officially declared a trusted member of the Shiromatsu gang and their extended family. After the traditional rites concluded, everyone got busy celebrating. During the celebration, Nick approached Kiyoshi and told him about his relationship with Miyu. At first, Kiyoshi didn't take it well. After all, Miyu was his sister. But deep down, he also knew that Nick was a responsible and trustworthy man. So, after a brief pause, Kiyoshi accepted their relationship. He told Nick that from now on,
No, we are real brothers.
Nick was now fully part of the Shiromatsu gang, and to prove his loyalty, he decided to get the Yazu clan tattoo inked on his back. The design told stories of loyalty and honor towards the gang. Miyu was with him throughout the process, and she was truly happy because Nick had now become an inseparable part of her life.
You get the same one as me?
It's important to flow the river.
In the following few days, Nick began rising quickly through the ranks, and his reputation within the gang steadily grew. But his past hadn't completely let him go. One day, while he was traveling with Miyu on a train, he noticed a familiar face in the crowd, one of the same Seizu gang members who had once tried to kill him. The moment Nick saw him, he went on high alert. The first thing that came to his mind was getting Miyu to safety at all costs. Meanwhile, a few members of the Seizu gang had arrived at the Shiromatsu headquarters, asking to meet the leader. Their intentions seemed peaceful, but in truth, they had come to gather intelligence and possibly stage an attack. Unaware of their real motives, the Shiromatsu leader welcomed them in. They wanted to make a deal with the Mitsu gang, but instead of sending a senior member, they sent a young guy to negotiate. The leader didn't appreciate that at all. Still, a member named Orochi insisted that the leader accept the deal. This act only fueled the leader's anger even more, and he immediately called the deal off.
上場すれば資金が商品開発に回り、すべての組が参加する言うてますわ。
屈辱や。Nick, get out.
That same night, Kiyoshi and Orochi were drinking together at a bar. Orochi was visibly furious with the leader for completely ignoring his suggestion. Kiyoshi could clearly see the anger building inside him. He warned Orochi to control his temper, but by then it was already too late. Orochi stormed out of the bar in rage. Outside, he unexpectedly ran into Miyu. The truth was, Orochi and Miyu had once been in love, and deep down, Orochi still had feelings for her. But Miyu made it absolutely clear that she didn't feel the same way anymore. Enraged by the rejection, Orochi tried to force himself on her. Fortunately, Miyu managed to escape just in time.
やめて。
言うてみ。
The next day, the Shiromatsu and Seizu gangs agreed to meet again, this time during a sumo match following an old-school tradition. And this time, the Seizu gang's chairman himself showed up. But this wasn't about business. The real reason was that the Seizu gang wanted the Shiromatsu leader to step down, and they intended to absorb the Shiromatsu gang into the Seizu empire completely. The moment the Seizu gang's offer was heard, the entire room heated up with tension. But the Shiromatsu leader immediately rejected the offer, saying that accepting it would completely destroy the Shiromatsu gang's name and honor. Right then, Nick stepped in and reminded the Seizu chairman that Shiromatsu houses dangerous wolves, not weak dogs. That very evening, while heading back home, Nick ran into an old acquaintance, Paulie, who had been his comrade in the American military and was visiting during the holidays. At first, Paulie was happy to see Nick, but soon he revealed that he knew Nick had faked his death to avoid a court-martial and threatened to report him. Sensing the danger, Nick quickly shifted his approach and invited Paulie to his home. As soon as the right moment came, Nick eliminated Paulie.
Fuck you. Why don't you come back and have a drink with me? I have got a surprise for you.
Nick went to meet Miyu, but as soon as Miyu opened the door, Nick saw the bruises on her face and flew into a rage. He demanded to know the name of the man who had hurt her. Miyu firmly refused to say, but then dropped a bombshell. "I'm going to be the mother of your child." After sharing this news, Miyu suddenly told Nick to leave. Nick was left confused, unable to understand what was really going on.
Who did this to you?
別にそれは望んでないの。There's a baby in me.
What was happening? Nick couldn't understand. Still, he quietly obeyed Miyu and left, but his mind was consumed only by thoughts of Miyu's safety. He decided that no matter what, he would never let anyone harm Miyu, not even a scratch.
Thinking about Miyu and their unborn child, Nick immediately went to meet Kiyoshi and told him he wanted to leave the Shiromatsu gang so he could live peacefully and happily with Miyu, away from all this chaos.
I'll leave. You're inside.
Instead of getting angry, Kiyoshi invited him inside with great affection and placed 2 swords in front of him. One meant for eliminating their enemies, and the other symbolizing the responsibility Kiyoshi had taken for Miyu since childhood. Kiyoshi fully trusted Nick to bear this responsibility. Nick promised and took one of the swords.
This is Daisho. If you and my brother take them.
Together, they buried Paulie's body and erased all evidence. Meanwhile, at the Seizu gang headquarters, Orochi had already made a plan to destroy the Shiromatsu gang from within, siding with the Seizu gang. The next day, the Shiromatsu leader, Nick, and Kiyoshi went to a tailor's shop. The tailor took the leader to a room to take his measurements for a suit. But soon, Nick sensed something was wrong and went into the room to check. There, he saw a man trying to attack the leader. Nick immediately intervened to save him, and at the same time, Kiyoshi came from behind and shot the attacker. They shot him too. After that, just as the 3 of them were about to leave, men from the Seizu gang launched a sudden attack. Nick and Kiyoshi fought bravely to defend themselves, but in the chaos, Kiyoshi got shot. Seeing this, both Nick and the leader were completely shattered. Right after the attack, the leader called an urgent meeting where he revealed that there was a traitor among them who was feeding all their information to the Seizu gang. This attack marked the beginning of an all-out gang war, and now the Shiromatsu gang was determined to avenge Kiyoshi's death. When Nick informed Miyu about Kiyoshi's death, she broke down crying uncontrollably. Hearing her cries fueled Nick's rage even more from within. From the very next day, Nick and his allies started taking down the top leaders of the Seizu gang one by one. Because of this, the Shiromatsu gang seemed on the verge of winning the war. But then one day, the Seizu gang sent a message to the Shiromatsu leader through a child. In it, the Seizu gang proposed to end the war all at once. Despite the looming danger, the Shiromatsu leader agreed to the proposal. Nick and the others accompanied him to an empty dock where the Seizu gang was already waiting. Everyone was shocked to see Orochi among the Seizu gang, and they instantly realized that Orochi was the traitor.
Despite Orochi's betrayal and all the secrets he had been feeding to the Seizu gang, the Shiromatsu leader decided to give him one more chance and even embraced him, hoping he would correct his mistake. But suddenly, Orochi stabbed the leader in the back and declared, "Now the Shiromatsu gang is finished." Meanwhile, the remaining Shiromatsu members were helpless, surrounded from all sides. Then Orochi presented Nick with an offer. If Nick let go of Miyu, he could save his own life. But Nick had no interest in such empty talks. Suddenly, a sniper shot Nick in the leg.
Make no promises for her safety.
At the same time, the Seizu gang, with police help, raided Shiromatsu's headquarters to wipe them out completely. That night, Nick managed to sneak past the Seizu gang's watchful eyes and reach Miyu to take her to safety. But his mission was far from over. His heart still burned with the fire of revenge. Taking the sword Kiyoshi had given him, Nick stormed straight into the Seizu gang's headquarters. In front of the Seizu leader, Nick declared his desire for revenge. Orochi snatched the sword from his hand and called him an outsider, someone who would never be part of them.
You walk into my home, outsider.
But in one swift move, Nick attacked Orochi's throat and took him down. The other gang members aimed their guns at Nick, but the Seizu leader stopped them. Then he told Nick to leave, acknowledging that his revenge was complete. Nick returned home, where he had hidden Miyu under Shiromatsu's protection. When Miyu learned that Nick had avenged her brother's death, she hugged him and cried. From that day on, Nick's status in the Shiromatsu gang rose even higher, and everyone started seeing him as their new leader.